Ancestry just made it super easy to add the descendants of your ancestors straight from your DNA matches. Sounds amazing, right? Until ThruLines starts lying to you. The Ancestry Add Descendants of Common Ancestor feature merges the concept of descendancy research and DNA matching. You can now start from a direct ancestor, say your third great-grandfather, and use a side panel to walk straight down the descendant line to your DNA match, adding people one at a time. There are several ways to access this new feature. From a tree, whether it be the vertical or horizontal view. Click on one of your direct ancestors, and on the mini profile window for the ancestors, you may see the link Add DNA Matches descending from the name of the ancestor. Click on this link, and a side panel on the desktop view will open to a menu that says Select a DNA match from your ancestor's descendants. And notice your tree is now in the vertical view, or you can find it through ThruLines. Click on the common ancestor that has DNA matches not in your tree. Currently, you'll need to click on the Tools menu option, click on the Add DNA Matches option, and you'll see a vertical tree view with a side panel that says Select a DNA match from this ancestor's descendants. As a quick reminder, the ThruLines work if you have linked your DNA test results to a public or searchable family tree and your genetic relatives have done the same. Ancestry shows you a list of those DNA matches from the chosen common ancestor that is in your family tree, and there will be a list of DNA matches, likely from the common ancestor, that are not in your tree. Select one and click View Connection. Ancestry will display a predicted direct descendant line between your common ancestor and the DNA match. At any time, you can view the profile of someone on this line. If you left-click on View Profile, Ancestry will open a new window, which is nice, by the way, and then you can review that profile. The dashed boxes are the people including your DNA match that are not in your family tree. For deceased persons in this line, you'll see a box with their name and the lifespan years. For living persons, Ancestry marks them as private unless they are your DNA match. So why is this tool great? Ancestry will highlight the next deceased person you can add to your family tree to extend that descendant's line. In the case of Charles Gordon and the match name James, the next match is Kitty Mae Milken. I can click on Review Person, a blue button at the bottom of the side panel, not the green words in the profile box. And Ancestry will then share relationship records. In this case, a Find a Grave record. It will share trees linked to the DNA match and Ancestry member trees with this connection contained within. You can then click on any of the source options to review them. In this case, I can look at the Find a Grave record for Kitty Mae Milken, and I'll see that her father's name is Columbus Huddle, the mother is Mary Catherine Huddle, and the spouse's name is James Milliken. The record continues with whatever other information was indexed from the source chosen. If I determine that this source is enough to validate the relationship, I can click Add to Tree, and Ancestry will add this person to my family tree. If I want to review other records, I can click Back and choose any alternatives. If I choose to accept the person into the tree, then Ancestry will ask me to select the parents of this new relative. You can opt for any of the parental couples or one of the parents alone. After Ancestry adds that person to your family tree, the ThruLines tool will drop down to the next person in the line between you and your match that is not in your family tree. There is one caveat. You can keep adding people to your tree from your common ancestors to your DNA match. That is, unless there's a living person who isn't a DNA match in the line. At that point, Ancestry will say, for now, private people and their descendants can't be added here. You'll have to navigate to the profile of the deceased parent of the private person, find your own records linking them together, and then you can go to your matches page and link them to the tree. This involves a few more steps, but it can be done. Since it's your tree, you can also add a placeholder ancestor or relative to your tree, mark them as living, and then add your DNA match to the person without a name profile. So, this new tool is a speedy tool, right? It's an accurate tool, right? Now both of those are debatable. Remember, just because Ancestry suggests a path doesn't mean it's proven. Let's talk about Amber. Ancestry ThruLines says she descends from Charles Gordon, one of my ancestors. Sounds great, right? Except she only shares 23 centimorgans with me. I see she's linked to her father, who shares 13 centimorgans with me. Now pause. That's backwards. A daughter shouldn't share more DNA with me than her father does, unless there's a twist. Spoiler alert, there's a twist. This is the moment where ThruLines fans say, build it out, add every branch, pedigree collapse will sort it out. And sure, maybe we are related to Amber and Scott in more than one way. Maybe their tree has a hidden twist. But whose side is the collapse on? Mine or theirs? And more importantly, is this where I want to spend my research time? You see, I've already solved my Gordon-Fickle line. I'm not looking to go down rabbit holes just because ThruLines has a suggestion in a shiny green leaf. Amber and Scott might be legitimate cousins, just not through the path that ThruLines is offering. So before I start building descendants and connecting dots, I need to ask, will solving this mystery help me with my real research goals? The bottom line, ThruLines can generate leads, but without segment size, match comparison, and a strategy, you might just be building someone else's family tree. So look, I love tools that make my life easier when it comes to genetic genealogy. As many of you know, I've been the Debbie Downer of DNA. However, the tools have to be useful and increase the accuracy of my tree building task. So here's how I have learned to leverage ThruLines wisely. First, start with your research question. Traditional genealogy research begins with a research question, and genetic genealogy is no different. Start with a research question. Who is the father of Samuel Curtis Brown? That question is going to have you use genetic genealogy to assist in finding the answer. This keeps you from chasing every branch and never coming back to the question that's most pressing. Next, do traditional descendancy research. Since ThruLines Add Descendants of Common Ancestor tool is a fancy form of descendancy research, why not just do descendancy research using the record hints that the family tree pulls from? By doing this work in the tree view rather than the DNA view, you'll ensure that you're not being trapped by confirmation bias. Additionally, when a record has multiple relatives named on it, think a census record, you can add multiple descendants at once. Step 3, ignore the trees of others while doing descendancy research. Don't use member trees as evidence of your family tree research until later in the game. Why? Because so many of the trees are wrong or not supported by any evidence. There are still trees that suggest that my Charles Gordon's parents are a couple who never lived in the area where Charles lived. Conversely, there's no evidence that my Charles was ever in the location where this couple lived. Finally, the DNA evidence hasn't held up under scrutiny. If I use member trees as a source rather than available records, I would bias my inclusion of DNA to what is proven, and I will have the wrong ancestors on my tree. So while you're doing descendancy research, skip the tree hints and focus on records. The next step is to validate that research you did with DNA matches. Cross-check every match using cluster research. You're trying to determine if a DNA network aligns. If it doesn't, don't add through-line recommendations, no matter how promising they seem. But after leveraging records and DNA matches, consult the through lines for additional clues when your research gets stuck. Before DNA came on the scene, member trees were a source of clues I may have missed, and so after doing my own documentation research and now DNA match research, I use through lines, which are based on member trees, as clue generators, not evidence. If you don't have all the time in the world to research your family tree, only build out through lines when it helps you solve a DNA question you started with. Remember? The process starts with a question. When you have confusing DNA matches like Amber or Scott, you'll want to consult other DNA tools on the Ancestry platform or other platforms to figure things out. And this is when a chromosome browser would come in handy, as it can clarify how Amber is likely related to you in more than one way and where. So let's tackle the main question. Should you use the Add Descendants of Common Ancestor tool available through ThruLines? I'm very hesitant about anything that promises quick wins, as anything that sounds too good to be true often is. If you're tempted to use this tool on autopilot, please pause. Make sure it's helping your research, not perpetuating falsehoods. Now, this tool has been available for several months at the time of this recording. If you've used this tool already, drop your insights and tips into the comments because I really want to hear from you and how you're using this tool. My question for everyone is, how do you stay focused on your DNA mysteries when you have a tree full of solved cases that you're adding to your family tree? Let me know in the comments section below. But if you want a deep dive on how you can spot when through lines might be lying, watch the video Through Lines Verification Tips, which is linked right up there.